Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another video. Now, in this one, I'm gonna show off a pretty sick piece of software that I wrote. So it basically lets you pause like any kind of games that don't necessarily have a pause menu, or like they do have a, what you call it, like when you press escape or whatever, the game kind of still runs in the background, so it's technically not paused, so you could die and stuff. However, with this script, or well, it's more of a C++ program that I wrote, you can pause like all those games, you can pause anything really. So before I begin with like all the good stuff, I'll show you how it actually works. So for this, I'll just show you what I do on the keyboard and stuff like that. So anyway, after you compile the code, you can like double click on this exe. By default, you won't see anything because it's hidden, it runs in the background. You know, not suspicious at all. So if we launch some game like Muck, in this case, and then if I go into like host lobby and then start my own one, then you'll see what I mean by it not being able to pause. So as you can see, I'm like running around. If I press escape or whatever, it like still runs in the background and whatnot. So now, to pause it with the program, I'll do is hold down Shift, AS and OP all at the same time. And you should hear a noise. So right now the program is paused, as you can see. So if I do anything here, nothing happens. And then to unpause it, so press the same combo again. So hold down Shift, AS and then OP. And you'll hear a noise again. And the program is nicely unpaused. And you can run around and show it. So anyway, I'm gonna leave this. And this also works like in the browser as well. It's kind of less useful in the browser, but I suppose if you're playing, I don't know, some browser games, it could be handy. So again, as you can see, video here is playing. Then I'll press Shift, AS and OP. It's better kind of to hold it until you hear the sound. As you can see, the browser is just like frozen. I can't move it around or anything like that. And then if I hold down the key combo again, as you can see, the browser unfroze and actually moved up as well. So yeah, that's the quick demo, I suppose. Now let's get on to the good stuff. So obviously for this, oh yeah, one more thing I forgot. You can actually see the like when I said it's hidden, it's like you can still see it if you have if you're using like Process Hacker, or if you are using or is it Task Manager. You should be able to see it here. So it's look for process named auto suspend. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. Just don't use Task Manager. It's not that great. Download Process Hacker. It's the same thing, but on steroids. And then you can just search there. As you can see, it's still running, so I'll keep that here. And then if you read the GitHub doc, you'll see that you can also exit. So you can exit this program by another key combo. So Shift, E, W, E, and K. So if I hold down, so if I just bring down my desktop here, so you guys can see, if I hold down Shift, W, E, and K, you should be able to hear like a nice Windows speech off sound, and then you'll see here that the program exited. So yeah, that's how that's done. Alright, so next step, let me get this out, is to, well, let's just compile this stuff. So anyway, you'll get this auto, just download the zip or do a git clone, and that'll be all good. And open this inside Visual Studio. Oh yeah, this only works on the Windows. This because we're using like a lot of Win32 APIs and all that good stuff for this. And on Linux you can just like send a suspend command anyway, so it is grand. You can begin by opening up the main folder here. So this is where the main file is, or the main function. So this here is what hides the console. If you don't want to hide the console, just comment that out, save it. Here select release, here select x86 or x64, because like there's no one really using x86 anymore. So you could just do a build here, build solution, and then you can run the app from here. So you'll have a directory like this. This is where all the code is in, and then the exe is in here, release, and then so just double click that, and then you'll see the window here, like so. So after commenting this out, you'll see a nice get ready. So let me just exit this real quick. Closing program, very nice. So yeah, anyway, the next piece that you can customize is this. How often to check for keys. So basically every 500 milliseconds I scan the keyboard. So it's not too bad. That way the program isn't like eating all of your CPU, and it just kind of really runs every 500 milliseconds, then just sleeps. So anyway, this grace period means that after it detected a key bind, so for example, if after you like suspended a process, you won't be able to unsuspend it after 5 times of looping. And so what this essentially means is after like 2.5 seconds, you'll be able to resume the process again. So I'll show you what that actually looks like. So if, yeah, I'll just suspend this process, sure, it doesn't matter. So let me run that. And then if I suspend this process, there you can see there's a grace period running, and so during this time you cannot resume the process. And if I resume it here, and there we go, and so now I can't suspend the process again. I made this because if you hold down your keys, so for example, I'm gonna hold down my key binding, and I'm gonna keep on holding it down. And so this just prevents you like spamming suspend and resume. This was more of an issue when there wasn't like a sound, but now you can just base it off a sound cue. But yeah, that's that. Oh yeah, I'll need to resume this again. All right, there we go. So yeah, that's that. So if you were to increase the grace period, it'll be like a longer delay before you can run the key binding again. So I'll actually show you that in the code later on, or actually I'll show you in the code right now, sure, why not. So here's the infinite loop. So here we sleep, the sleep duration is 500 milliseconds. And then you can see here if counter is greater than 0, we just keep looping here, and by decreasing the counter. and then where we set the counter. So we set the counter here after we check this pattern, and if we toggle the suspended application, then we set a counter, and then the next time this infinite loop loops, it'll keep looping through here for like 5 times. So yeah, that's kind of all the settings available at the moment. This keyboard listen just starts this infinite loop. Another thing you can do is you can change the key bindings. So what I find is like the shift works pretty well with like every other key. So this is like POAS. So that's all the ones that you hold down. If you're wondering how I got these codes, it was like the characters, they're ASCII. So if you go into ASCII table, let's see here, ASCII table. All right, that should be good enough. So let's look for the character P, which should be 80. There it is. So yeah, as you can see, decimal 80. So that's kind of how you can get the characters. Now obviously you won't find shift in here. So what you can do is you can uncomment this function here. So what this function here does is it just displays which keys you pressed currently and their number. So let me build this. All right, build successful. Let me run this, and as you can see, we have our keys. So if there's nothing here, that means that nothing's pressed. But if I press A, as you can see, you get code 65. And then if I press P, you get code 80. Well, if I hold down P, it's code 80. As you can see here, P is decimal code 80, so that's how I get it. And then if I press Shift, it's 160. And if I hold Control, it's 17. So that's how you can get the codes very easily. And then you can just add them into like another array there if you want to do something else. So let me just comment this back out so that doesn't spam. So here we're just using the Windows get key state, and we're doing it for all the keys. If you wanted to do it for every single one, you would start this at the I0, and then I is less than 256. But in this case, I found that starting at 17 and going up to 162 is like where all the most keys are. Anything after this is like kind of rubbish, basically. Yeah, so anyway, the check pattern, it just checks for like any pattern that you pass into the function. So here, as you can see, I passed 2. So yeah, it just loops through the patterns, then sees if the keys match. And if they do, then you get dropped in here and you get to play this sound, which is, I just found this in Windows folder. This kind of like the Windows default sounds. You can see them here. And then to exit the app, I just do like a simple break to break out of this while loop, and then the code will like drop into here and you'll see all done, and then the program exits. So yeah, and then to actually toggle the current active window, I have like a suspender function here, or class. So yeah, there's kind of like 2 kind of important methods here to pause the current window. So get active window PID is just again Windows API. You just call get window thread process ID, and you pass in like a variable what you call a variable pointer where you want your PID to be stored, because you need the PID to actually suspend the process. So yeah, to suspend the process, first it gets the PID and then checks if PID is like not null, and then it sets a debugger on the process, and what the debugger does is it pauses execution until you until you either stop the debugger, or there's like other kind of debug methods, so you can like step through the code and so on like that. But in this case, we're just kind of using it as a kind of pausing hack. It's not really meant to be used for this, but works really well, so that's pretty cool. And then, so if that's true, we'll set a variable debug started, and then as you can see, we use this variable to check if we need to stop the debugger. And then also we use this variable to check in the toggle. So yeah, that's kind of handy. So we just use the resume and pause PIDs here. You can call these directly as well if you want to edit the code, so you can call them. So if you wanted to, really, you could have like a pattern to pause the game and then a different pattern to resume it and so on. So yeah, but I just did it as a toggle because that's kind of my need or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of it really. It's just fairly straightforward, attaching a debugger and so on. So yeah, thanks for watching, and bye bye.